Let's start by looking at the payment reconciliation journal and a couple of its basic features. So I will click on cash management and then payment reconciliation journal. So currently we don't have any payment reconciliation journals outstanding. So and by clicking on process, you can see that there are a number of actions that I can choose from. Import, edit, or new journal. So now if I click on new journal, I can create a payment reconciliation journal manually. And so for example, I can select one of the banks. Let's take the Worldwide Bank Operating. And there you can see now how a payment reconciliation journal looks like. And if you want, you can also start entering lines manually. And so I can enter a line manually by, for example, selecting an account name, the account type, so a vendor customer account, and so on. So I could use it more or less in the same way as, for example, a cash receipt journal or a payment journal. But there are a couple of more advanced features that you can use in the payment reconciliation journal. So for example, you can see here the import bank transactions action, but also the apply automatically action. And so the system can try to apply imported bank transactions automatically. And that's something I will show you in one of the following steps. But first of all, let's go and have a look at how we need to set up the bank if you want to enable the import of bank statements. So I will go to bank accounts. So for my example, I will be using the Worldwide Bank Euro. And now it's very important that if you scroll down, that you enter the bank statement import format. So in this case, again, I will be using the SEPA format, but depending on the region you're working in, you might have to use other formats. And because I'm using the SEPA format, I also need to have a valid bank account number and a valid SWIFT code. So that's very important before you can import bank statements, in this case the SEPA bank statements. And so based on this setup, I can start now importing bank statements, as I will show you in one of the following lessons. So in the payment reconciliation journal that I just showed you, we saw that there is an apply automatically function available, which means that the system can make automatic applications. And that's of course very, very interesting. But of course, the automatic applications are always based on the information that we have available on the payment reconciliation journal line. And based on the application rules, the system will try to match to apply automatically. So let's go and have a look at the payment application rules. So if I search for the payment application rules, there you go, we can see a list of all the rules that currently are set. Now, what is very important? First of all, the match confidence. So based on the available information, like I just said, the system will search for transactions to apply with. And if there's a lot of information available, you might have a confidence high. So high is telling me that what the system suggests is almost always correct. But besides high, you can see that there is also medium, which means that there's already a bit more doubt. And there's also low, which means that you always have to double check what the system suggests, and in some cases it might also not be correct. And then there's also the match confidence none, as you can see. So that's very important, and that's also a field that we see appearing in the payment reconciliation journal lines in one of the next topics. If I import a bank statement, so for each line the system will display the match confidence. Then you can see the priority, so each line has a priority, and then you can see that there are a couple of fields where we can specify based on which information the system should try to make an application. So for example, there's the related party matched. So if there is a full related party match, so in other words, if there is enough information available in the payment reconciliation journal to match with the related party, the customer or the vendor, then this could lead to a high match confidence. But in this case, together with the document number, external document number match, so if the customer provided, for example, the invoice number it paid, and then also there we can have a match, and the number of entries within the amount tolerance found. And so Also, that is something that can be very important. Now, as you see, we can change this. We can modify the payment application rules. So if you think that some of these rules have to be modified, you want to set, for example, other options in one of these fields, that's something that you can perfectly do. However, I would advise to try to start with the standard payment application rules, because they're set up in a very good way. And only when you see that some rules might not work in your situation, it could be interesting to go and modify them. If you have modified rules, but you want to revert to the default rules, notice here the restore default rules action in the ribbon. So I can click on this action to restore to the default rules in case that you might have modified some of the lines and you want to switch back to the default rules. Now notice the description of this column, number of entries within the amount tolerance found. And that's also a very important feature that we can use, the tolerance settings. And let me demonstrate this. So I will close this page and then I will go to the bank account that I've set up for importing bank statements. And so in my case, the Worldwide Bank Euro. So there we go. And on the General Fast tab, notice that there are two fields, the match tolerance type and the match tolerance value. Now these fields can be set up in order to enable the system to recognize or to apply payments with small payment differences. Here, when clicking on the match tolerance type field, notice that there are two options, percentage or amount. And based on the type, I can then enter a percentage or an amount. Now, if the tolerance value is 0, like we have in this case, then the amount paid should match exactly the invoice amount. So if there is a very, very small difference, the system will not find back or will not suggest to apply automatically. But in real life, these small differences can, of course, they can occur. And by entering again a percentage or an amount, the system can take into account these differences and can still suggest to apply automatically, even when there is a very small payment difference. So in this case, let's take 5 or whatever. You can also set an amount if you want. But that could be very interesting to use in combination with the apply automatically function that I will now show you in the next topic. Let's now import a bank statement and check the result. And I will do this by clicking on Cash Management and going to the Payment Reconciliation Journals. Next, if I click on Process, I can select Import Bank Transactions. And as already mentioned, I've prepared the Worldwide Bank Euro for importing bank statements. So I will select this bank and click on OK. Next, I can retrieve my file. So by clicking on Choose, I've prepared the file statement number 4. So that's the one that I will select, and I will click on Open. So now you see that the system has processed the bank statement and 5 out of 8 lines are applied. So let's go and have a look at the result. So in here you can see now the Payment Reconciliation Journal with a number of lines from the imported bank statement. Now, before we process these lines, let's go and have a look at some of the information that we see here on the Payment Reconciliation Journal. And first of all, there's the match confidence. So remember, in the section on the payment application rules, I explained that based on the information that is available on the bank statement, the system will try to apply automatically. And with the match confidence, we can see whether this succeeded, yes or no. So if the match confidence is none, then of course there's no automatic application. With low, the system made an application, but that's something that we might have to check, and so on. Then there's the transaction date, transaction text. So most of these fields are quite self-explanatory, including the account name, account type, so all the basic information that we need to process a bank statement. Now, besides the information we see on the line, you can also select the line and click on the bank transaction details in the ribbon, and this might give you some additional information when you need to examine a specific line, for example. Okay, let's focus now a bit more on the lines, because there is still some work to be done, although the system has applied some of these lines automatically. Let's start with this line. Here the payment of invoice BBB and so on. So what is important? Well, first of all, it's a medium confidence. So possibly the system selected the correct invoice, the correct vendor or customer. And also what is important is that the applied amount equals the transaction amount. And you see that this is not the case for each line. But in this case, these match perfectly. And there's no difference. Okay, but still it's only medium, so I would like to double check. So let's click on the match confidence. So and then you can see here, the application, the applied amount, so the system suggests to apply to 108,016. So in this case, the document number, that's my internal number, but here you can see the external document number, and that's a reference on the bank statement, which the system has used to apply automatically with this transaction. So and this looks to be okay, because also the amount is exactly the same. So it seems that here the system suggests a correct application. And this means that, for example, by selecting a line, and if the application is correct, I can also accept the application. So there you see that the confidence now shows accepted. So that's something that went quite well. Let's look at the second line. So there the transaction text mentions that 3 invoices were paid. But there's quite a huge difference. And the transaction amount is 17,000, but the applied amount is only 3,868. And the document number is 103017. So in this case, it seems that the system only suggests to apply only 1 document where we need 3 invoices. So also here, let's have a closer look. So I will click on the match confidence. And here I can see what the system suggests. But indeed, there's only 1 invoice that the system suggests to apply, which is not correct, because we have, there are 3 invoices that should be applied. Okay, it seems that the customer is correct, so that's okay. But instead of this first line, I would like to select the next 3 lines, because by doing this, you see now that there's no difference anymore. So it seems that these 3 invoices were paid, so and these should have been applied. So in here, this is an example where you see that the system didn't find the documents. It found the customer in this case, but not the documents. There we needed to help the system a bit by selecting the documents, you could say. And also here now, by accepting, I can accept the applications. Then another example, this line. So there's a medium confidence. So the transaction amount is 23,195 and the applied amount 21,059. So here you can see the documents that were paid. So let's go and have a look. So I will click here on medium. And it seems that the correct documents were applied, but the customer paid more than the total of these documents. And so the extra amount is higher than the tolerance that we have set. It's quite a high amount, so this is of course not within the tolerance settings. So this means that the customer paid too much, and that we have to post it as an open amount on the customer, you see. And that's something that can also be done, because as long as there is a difference, you will not be able to post the payment reconciliation journal. So we should resolve these differences. Okay, let's go ahead and do this, because once again, the correct invoices were applied, but there are still some differences. And the function that we need here is the function transfer difference to account. Because the difference of 2,136 should be transferred to a specific account. So if I click this, there we go. You can see the amount, then the account type, and here, very simple, I would like to transfer it to the customer account itself. So that this is an open customer ledger entry that we can apply maybe with another invoice and so on. So I will search for the customer. There he is. and I will click on OK. Next, you get the message that the system has created a separate line, and here I can now see indeed the line. The line with match confidence manual and with no difference anymore. And this means that we can also accept these applications. Then another situation, this line. So there we have received the payment from Beef House, but the payment text only mentions B House, and the system didn't recognize the customer. But maybe I as a user has recognized the customer, and I would like to assign it to the Beef House customer, and that's something I can do by entering the information manually. So this is of course also something that can happen. So when the system doesn't recognize the related party, but you as a user do, then you can still enter the customer and the vendor manually. So let's do this. I've selected the customer, and now we need to look for customer Beef House. There he is. Okay. So there's the customer. Entering the customer is resulting in the fact that the match confidence now is manual, which is okay. But if you want, you can go a step further. So maybe you want to check if there is an invoice that can be applied, which means that just as in the cash receipt journal, you can use the apply manually function and look for the invoice. Here I can see the transactions, but there is no exact transaction or no amount that matches the 1,450. So for the time being, I will just leave it open. One of the last things that we can do, or that I should do here, and this is also very interesting, you can see that there are two lines that don't have a match confidence. So the match confidence is none. But in both cases, we're more or less processing something that I would like to post directly to a GL account, because here we're looking at the service fee. So each month we're paying a service fee for the copy machine, and here is the monthly rent payment. The payment that we receive rent for a specific building. Now again, this is something I would like to post to a GL account, and if you want, you can enter the GL account manually. So that's quite easy to do. Account type, GL account, and then the account number. However, in some cases, it might be interesting to use the map text to account function, because maybe the next month I will have to pay the same service fee and I will receive the same description. And so based on the description, based on the text, I can now map a specific GL account so that the system next time will recognize the GL account automatically, you see. So let's do this. I will click here on map text to account. There you can now enter the text. Sorry, let me do this again. Should be enough. Then I can look for the debit and the credit account. So in this case, I'm looking for an expense account. Let's take office supplies as an example. So debit, and let's also enter it as a credit account. And next I will click on close. So now you see, by doing this, the system has changed the match confidence. So the match confidence is now high text to account mapping, you see. And again, like I already mentioned, the next time the same transaction text is used, or a text that includes service fee copy machine, the system can now automatically map to the account 8,210. So now that I've processed all lines, and that's by the way something that you can tell by looking at the match confidence column, because they all have a specific value, I can process or post the payment reconciliation journal, and there are two options to do so. So first of all, you can use the post payments only action, which will only post the lines but will not reconcile them. Or as you can see, there's also the post payments and reconcile bank account action, and that will perform both actions at the same time, which means that your entries are also reconciled. So let's do this. I will click here. So then I can confirm by clicking on yes. And there you go, everything has been posted. So let's go ahead and look at the results. I will go to my bank accounts in this case, and I will go to the Worldwide Bank operating, and I'm interested in the bank account ledger entry. So if I click on navigate, And if I click on ledger entries, you can see the different ledger entries. And because I ran the post and reconcile function, so where both actions were performed, you see here that these bank account ledger entries are not open anymore. So they have been reconciled at the same time.